folks. Today we're going to take a quick look at seed sprouting. Now seed sprouting is a brilliant thing to experiment with. It's something that you can do over the winter. You don't need access to a garden and you don't need any fancy equipment to get started. So all you're doing is growing some seeds just into that very, very first stage where they've sprouted their root and sometimes the very first little set of seed leaves that they get. It's really, really quick. So here are some mung bean sprouts. Now these are the sprouts at day 3, and this is what they'll look like after about a week. And then the same over here, we've got some alfalfa, and this is them at day 3, and this is them after about a week, and they're definitely ready to be eaten now. So in terms of equipment, you really don't need anything fancy at all, probably stuff that you have lying around your house. So you're going to need a jar, you are going to need a bit of fabric. I've got a little bit of muslin here. I find this quite useful because one of the things that you're going to be doing with your jars of sprouts every day is rinsing them. And if you've got a fabric that's got a little bit of a more open weave, that's going to make it a lot better and a lot easier to do. You're also going to need an elastic band just to secure the fabric onto the top there. Now, if you experiment a little bit and you find you get really into seed sprouting, you can get these little lids that will screw on to a wide mouth jar like this. And that's just got a little sort of wire mesh insert. You could probably do something like this, like DIY something like this yourself. It definitely is a helpful thing if you're going to be doing a lot of seed sprouting. It makes that sort of rinsing and draining process so much faster. So the only other thing you're going to really need to get started are your seeds. There's loads and loads of different things that you might like to try, and the best thing to do is really just to experiment and sort of get a sense of what flavours you prefer. So things like the mung beans and the alfalfa, they're sort of quite mild flavour. If you like something that's got a little bit more of a kick to it, you might want to try sprouting something like radish. In terms of where to get the seeds, you can often find places online where you can buy bulk seeds for sprouting, but there are also things that you can buy just from a supermarket or from a health food shop, somewhere like that, that will usually sprout pretty well. So things like chickpeas, the mung beans are usually quite easy to find. You can also sprout things like lentils. So it's a really straightforward process. So the first thing you're going to do is take your seeds. And for a jar this size, I would start off with roughly a tablespoon of seeds. That's what I've used here, and you can see that after a week the jar is really almost full. So you're going to pop your seeds into the jar, and then you're going to cover the seeds with water and just leave it to sit overnight. And what's going to happen is all of those seeds are going to start to soak up the water, and that's going to kickstart the sprouting process. So I usually just do that overnight, fill them up, and then in the morning drain that water away, and then fill it up, swirl it around to rinse them, and then drain that out as well. And then once I've done that, we'll stand it up so that any extra water is just able to sort of drain out. And I usually just leave that next to my sink. The next thing that you're going to do is every day, twice a day, is take your jar to the sink, fill it up with water, give it a really good swish around. You can do this sort of once or twice, drain that water away, give it a really good shake. You don't want your seeds to be sitting in extra water because things might start to get a little bit sort of rotten and slimy. You definitely want to avoid that. So do, when you've rinsed them, shake it off and make sure you don't have any sort of extra water or drips sitting in there. And then I like to leave this just upside down so that if there is any water, it's just going to keep draining out of those little holes in the mesh. So that really is all there is to it. As long as you remember to rinse them twice a day, then in a few days' time you will have some really tasty sprouts to eat. Now, a little sort of health note just to be aware of, like with other fresh foods, there can sometimes be a risk of bacteria like salmonella. So that's why hygiene is really important. You want to be rinsing really, really regularly. Keep a good eye on them. If you notice that anything is getting sort of brown or slimy, or you notice any sort of unpleasant smells, ditch them and start again. That's definitely the safest way to do it. If you are somebody who would be particularly vulnerable to any sort of foodborne illnesses, then the safest way to be growing and eating your sprouts is to be cooking them before you eat them. In terms of different ways to enjoy your sprouts, things like mung beans, they're a bit sort of bigger and juicier and crunchier, so they're really good in stir fries and dishes like that. If you're going to be cooking them, putting them in things like scrambled eggs or omelettes is also a really nice way to do it. And then fresh, they're brilliant just in salads and sandwiches, and then as a sort of garnish or a little side with pretty much anything else that you're eating. Yeah, I would absolutely just encourage you to experiment, try out the different flavours and see what works for you. If you are in Glasgow and you'd really like to have a go, we do have some winter grow kits available at the moment, and that's got all the information and the materials and resources that you need to do your own seed sprouts, but also microgreens and pea shoots. So get in touch if you would be interested in one of those. Otherwise, happy sprouting. Let us know how you get on. I'd love to hear your sprouting stories, so do get in touch.